Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to WOR. We are here for the fourth round of this season, and we're at the Jeddah Corniche circuit. And, well, we are a little bit later than usual. We do apologise for that one, but that is because Lawrence was deciding to play Clash on his mobile. But I'm joined by Joseph, none other than the incredible Joseph Black, for this one, as per usual, in a console commentary Division 1 or Tier 1, whatever we want to call it. And it's the tight circuits of Jeddah for us tonight. And how do you think this one's going to go?
I think it'll be very good. I think it'll be a true test of the driver's abilities. It's a very, very tight circuit indeed. And, well, there's, of course, more corners on this circuit than there are on any other on the calendar. So it'll be an interesting one to watch where the drivers will head through. And they're already coming out of the circuit, some of them, because there are reports that it is raining in Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, that's going to be a very interesting dynamic indeed. And, well, rain is not necessarily something we would have expected here tonight, but it looks like it's going to affect our qualifying session.
Let's see how it will pan out. 27 corners, as you quite rightly mentioned, for this one is the most amount of corners in the season on a track. And, well, we're on board with Tony Reish as they're coming down this second sector now. And, I mean, it's so tight and twisty that you can get caught out at any point. We've seen big accidents here, especially in the esports scene, which is quite interesting, because you would expect them not to be throwing it up the inside. And, you know, cast your minds back to the 2024 game, which was at the beginning of this season, esports side of things. It was quite chaotic.
Yeah, it certainly was. Big crash as well. That happened. Danny Barojno involved in it. And, well, it breeds from not being able to overtake at this circuit very often. There's not many overtaking opportunities, and this was in the final sector where frustration would have built up over the course of an entire lap. They would have felt as though they were quicker than the car in front of them. And when that builds up over the course of a lap because of how tight esports is, then it can cost you, because you can push maybe just that little bit over the limit, and it can, you know, really throw your lap off, because you're not driving to your true potential or your true momentum. Instead, you're trying to force something that cannot happen. And, well, we might see that in the first couple of qualifying laps with these drivers all out on the circuit. Every single one of them now out on the circuit. Not only will they have other drivers to contend with, to overtake, to get past, but also at the same time, they will have to contend with the fact that potentially there is rain later on in this session. I'm not actually sure whether it's rain in the qualifying or rain in the race, but either way, there is rain projected on the horizon. But if it is in qualifying, then the pressure ramps up on the first two laps. And so they may well try to push just that little bit too hard where the grip isn't necessarily there.
And maybe a yellow flag was for someone pushing a bit too hard, but the time should start tumbling in very, very, very shortly. But we stay on board with Tony as they're coming through Sector 3, heading towards turn 20, well, into 26, into 27. A driver definitely to beat in this one is Shizu Silo, as there's a Ferrari going very, very slowly through here, maybe causing Tony a little bit of a problem, but tight to the line. It is quickest for Tony overall, maybe actually giving them a slipstream, because that's 0.3 of a second. Let's take that back. Finley even quicker than Tony through that. So the time's now starting to hit us. Dirk, the championship leader, coming through. And I think we mentioned last week that he's championship leader by, I don't want to say luck, but not really by design at the moment.
Races of attrition is what Dirk's run so far. Mistakes have been made by other people, maybe just not turning up as well. But he is the leader, and by a significant distance. 65 points is what he leads over Silo, who is on just 29. So he's got over double the amount of points than everybody else in this field, and he's looking very, very good to pick up a championship to his name. And a 26.020 makes it look pretty good that he may well be in the fight for that pole position right now. And we are on round number 4 of the season. Of course, it's early days, so we haven't quite gotten to the crunch part of the season where it's important to pick up points. But being double the points of everybody else, as, well, I say we're in the early days. Next week's the halfway mark of the season, so we've had the early days. It's now getting into the thick of things.
It certainly is. It's the well, the main point of picking up point scoring here at the in the season here in WR. So we're on board with Lawrence, who goes across the line into third place. Some good times to be set so far. Both David Bands and Quantum. We've had some good pace at the early stages. Maybe the points haven't come as readily as we would have expected. Going into the pits, they're not happy.
No, I don't think. I think there's a number of drivers who won't be happy with their with the way they kicked off proceedings. I mean, you got 12 drivers within half a tenth of a second of dirt, so it's not too bad. But the likes of Sviatty, the likes of typical David Bands, Quantum, and Monza. David Bands who actually invalidated in the first sector. So there's a number of drivers who won't be happy with their laps. Some who aren't happy with other drivers who may well be picking up some sort of penalty, including our favourite. I'm not going to say his name, the lobby host of today, if you get any clues from that one, the Ferrari in third place at the moment, which is, of course, Lawrence. But one of us, probably me, at some point will forget that it is actually Lawrence and slip out with the name. I'll do my best to avoid that. But, of course, I mean, I believe, is he banned from PSGL from using that name? For using that name, I think so. There was something along those lines. But, of course, I've just made a mention of the name that we shall not name, and of course console, it's the top of both. It's the top of both PlayStation and Xbox, and so we get all of the best drivers, and at the moment it's looking all PlayStation. 9th place is the highest place you'll see an Xbox driver, and all three who didn't set a first lap on their first run, well, they're Xbox players too, and it's actually the bottom four who are all on it. So it looks like priority at the moment is held by the PlayStations.
It certainly is. And well, I remember the days when it was quite evenly matched, and maybe even a little bit more Xbox side of things. And already Monza has invalidated their lap time. That's not good for them. Let's have a look at Nico Castronovo then, as I think they're just about to start their lap. Though they are slightly further back on the track. So we'll just keep some action flowing through. But, you know, Elite, he's not Elite. It's Otis Lawrence. That was... his gamer tag was Elite, but you had Tom Manley, Tom Ronhart, all come from the Xbox side of things now into the PC. It's odd to see Xbox just die a little bit at the moment, it feels like.
Yeah, I think the switch to the new gen, for whatever reason, hasn't been too good for Xbox, and generally the scene has been dying out console-wise in general over the last year or so. And a lot of them, to be fair, have picked up PCs, and unfortunately Rens Thomason, who of course was very quick, has retired this week from racing. He's just not feeling the passion anymore, and you can understand it. But of course, they get weeded out. We still get a number of decently quick drivers, and we could be looking at maybe potentially on one of our next esports drivers in the next few years. They could be making the step over to PC, making the step up, and yeah, we could be having another Lawrence or... well, just take, for example, Otis Lawrence, take, for example, Thomas Ronhart. We could be having another story along those lines, as where we have a couple of drivers out on the circuit. And speaking of Thomas Ronhart, in fact, there's a couple of Saubers. Luca invalidated early on. Typical has not invalidated just yet, but he'll be hoping to hold on to what would be his first competitive run.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for a lot of those drivers, and you can so easily, because it's a street track, you can so easily get yourself caught out. And I think Nico Castronovo is going to get caught out, and McLaren dives out the way. But how much of an issue was that for Nico Castronovo? Because then McLaren was back on the racing line afterwards. That's not going to be good at all, and either Venom or Volokongan will have possibly caused Nico a bit of trouble. And it's so difficult to get out of the way on this track, as I think I was talking about at the time, that it's you could see more penalties for impeding at this track than any other.
Certainly could. The stewards are going to have to keep an eye on it if they do want to hand out penalties on site. If they want to wait till post-race, that is also very much an option. It means they get the opportunity to look at the incident in greater detail and see exactly what happens. But of course, some drivers may feel that it is unjust to just allow the drivers to continue on. So it's an ever ongoing debate. But of course, live stewarding isn't necessarily the most practical thing that you can have, especially not when, as I mentioned earlier, while the player base is dying off, the passion for it is dying off as well, hoping that F1 26 is going to be... I say F1 26. F1 25.5, I would describe it as, is going to be a better game. Tony Reish there with a fastest lap of all, a 25.8. The track is evolving, it's getting quicker, and so are the drivers. So it is looking like it's going to be at least a mid-25. I think that'll be our pole time.
This is going to be a really, really good time to continue watching how quick these guys on console can go. Quantum has invalidated their lap again, but David Bands, the other Alpine here tonight, is pushing on through towards turn 27. And Williams behind, which I would believe would be Fana Spinoda just about to start their lap times. Dives nicely out the way, but David Bands finally going to be able to put a lap time on the board. It's into the 25s. It's just beaten Tony Reish. That's a quality lap under pressure from David Bands.
Certainly is no lap so far, and he throws that in. That's a statement to the rest of the field, I think, that that's his true pace, and we haven't seen much from the Alpine this season. But that could be the turning point, as that's going to be Fana Spinoda out of the session. He flew into the wall. I caught a glimpse of it, and quite literally, I just watched him spinning around. So fitting to his name, Fana Spinoda, I think, just flew into the wall at an incredibly high volume. And unfortunately, that was going to be him out of the session. So now down to 19 drivers, and they'll all be hoping to be beating Fana Spinoda's time, which is good enough at the moment for 8th place.
I moved off that just as he clipped the board. I saw the impact into the wall, and then I saw the retirement. That's such a shame for Fana Spinoda there. But that's the other thing about this track is there's a lot of places where you can cause yourself problems, as I think Dirk is invalidated or not happy with their lap, and I can't imagine they're doing a second installation lap. It's just going to go back into the pits and start again, surely.
Yeah, you would imagine so, and we'll be seeing the drivers out for, I believe, just the one more run. Cannot see how long we've got left, because I'm just being reminded that there is a yellow flag in sector 2 and 3, which is very helpful, because I know that the drivers are on their in laps, so I don't necessarily need to be reminded, but it is fine. It's one of the quirks that we get, and one of the perks that we get as from the broadcasting perspective, where it's something that we've been told for the last couple of years. I've been hating on this game this evening. I don't know what it is. But yeah, it's the drivers are going to be coming out of the pit lane now, and we'll be seeing them preparing for what could be their final runs, as likely Dirk is going to come into the pit lane, and indeed he is. So a championship leader from 3rd place in qualifying so far has come into the pit lane, will be preparing his tyres, almost gets taken out by a Ferrari, but lives to tell the tale. And, well, SCI Dirk is not going to improve on the lap time that he's got so far, a 25.7, but a 25.97 even. But that's still not a bad lap time, all things considered. It's thrown him into 3rd place and in contention for pole position, you would imagine. So I think he'll be pretty happy with his progress so far.
Yeah, it's a good place for Dirk to be. Kind of turn P1, kind of going into turn 1. It's kind of like I'm trying to think of the right way. Kind of got a target on your back, haven't you? Because it's so quick to. It's immediate left and then immediate right for turn 2, and you can get yourself caught and hung out to dry by anyone on the grid if you're not careful. But I suppose it's the same for any driver throughout the grid. Max van der Geesten, we've got 3 VNT drivers in a row there, as a massive bit of kicking up. I'm not sure what it is. Are you seeing this, or is it just me?
I'm hearing that. I'm not hearing you. It's just the thing. So that was the question. Is it any better now?
No, this is problematic. What is going
am
on?
I? Yeah, hello.
Hello. Right, I think there's going to be a little bit of an